Hello and welcome back to the House Garden. Today we are testing out our new Cub Cadet FT-24 tiller that we picked up last week at Tractor Supply. This is a great little tiller, perfect for home gardening use. It's a 13 or 24 inch adjustable tiller, and one of the nice features about this is that the outside tines can be removed and used as a cultivator with the small, narrow tines on the inside. Now this was the first time we had used it, so we are preparing it, putting new oil and gasoline in, and getting ready to head to the garden and work on some of our projects. It's a beautiful day in West Virginia. We were 60 degrees on the 22nd of February and didn't feel the need to stay cooped up inside. So what better way to enjoy the day than to get out and prep the gardens? So here we are adding the oil, making sure that we have enough in there, and then adding the gasoline and getting everything ready to go. And once we had it ready, we took it over to our second blackberry bed, and after getting the tiller set up and bringing it over there, it started on the first pull. That's always a good thing when you buy something new and go to test it. Last thing I want to do is pull on that rope a dozen times. So it started first time, got into the bed and started tilling, and the one thing I forgot to do was adjust the drag bar in the back to kind of hold the tiller back, and you can see it's jumping around a little bit and trying to pull forward on me. This was a bed that I had turned by hand the previous week with a garden spade and a compost fork. So I basically just turned the sod over. You can actually watch that as part of one of my other videos, fixing the raspberry beds. That's also a previous video that we did. But you can see from the side, as I went through, the tiller does a very good job of digging down in and cutting through the sod. I just didn't have that drag bar set where I needed to keep it from jumping forward and bucking. And I think here at this point, I realized I needed to make the adjustment, so I stopped, dropped it down, and reset that drag bar. And you'll see as we start back up here, once that drag bar gets in and is set at the right depth, the tiller is actually much more stable. And this bed was completed after 2 or 3 passes, and it turned out very nicely. I will have to go back through and probably run through once or twice more with some added compost and some organic material just to help fertilize and sweeten up the soil a little bit before I plant the blackberries in. But it is 90% ready for new blackberry plants. Here's the final pass through that I did today, and you can see much more stable, much less jumping around. And then from here, I decided it was time to try and see how the tiller would perform in the garden bed that was tilled last year, that we planted for last year. This is a 50 by 20 garden bed that we cut last year, and we actually had somebody come in and till it for us because it was mostly grass and mostly lawn, but this year it's pretty soft, easily tillable soil. Last year we added peat and we added compost, and we're in the process now of getting it tilled up and ready for a load of some fresh manure and bedding material that we'll till in and let sit for about a good month before we actually plant the rest of the garden. But you can see this is a 50 by 20 garden bed, and even though the video is sped up a little bit here, it was less than 20 minutes to till this entire piece of garden. And as I went through with the drag bar adjusted correctly and running the tiller through this softer soil, very smooth, no jumping around unless we hit some bigger rocks. I still have some construction rubble that we're digging up as we till through, but this was a very, very simple process this year as opposed to last year when it was several hours to get this cut in and tilled the first time. This tiller does a very, very nice job. Now the last pass through and the 50 by 20 bed is done. And the last bit of tilling that we did today was on a raspberry bed that we were cutting into a new section. This had not been tilled before. This is sod and lawn, so the first few passes were very, very difficult. This tiller is good, but it takes a couple of passes to cut down through the top layer of sod and grass. It jumped around quite a bit here, even with the drag bar set correctly. But once I got through the first 2 or 3 passes, the tiller settled down and dug down in nicely. I think I made a total of 8 passes along the entire length of this bed, and by the time I was done, it was very smooth, very even. The sod was cut up nicely, and again, I'll add compost and some fertilizer in. I'll go through a couple more passes with the tiller to mix everything in, and it'll be ready for a new planting of 4 to 5 types of raspberry bush, probably the end of March, beginning of April. So to recap, again, this is the Cub Cadet FT-24 front tine tiller. It did a great job. It's the first time we'd ever used it. It performed well from cutting through brand new sod and cutting into lawn to create a bed, or tilling up a 50 by 20 garden bed. So I like it, and I plan on using it a bunch more and creating some new beds later in the spring. Thanks for watching the House Garden channel again. Like and subscribe if you want to see more updates to our 2017 garden projects, and leave some comments or questions if you have anything down below. Thank you.